Thank you so much, Dana and Sabine, for the very warm welcome. And yeah, very good morning to all of you and a warm welcome to, yes, the world of next gen. Yeah, we as social scientists and market research, of course you know that we love to talk about people with the term generation. But I asked myself, why, and does it really help? For the why, maybe he is one of the reasons. You might not know him. This is Karl Mannheim. It's a very early sociologist. He explored how attitudes and values of young people were affected and shaped by World War II, World War I, actually, 100 years ago. And in 1921, he came across with a concept of generations, which he put like the non-simultaneity of the simultaneous. Well, that's quite complicated, but actually it's not. Because what he means is everyone lives with peers and non-peers, so the ones who are at the same age and different ages, in a wealth of simultaneous opportunities. For everyone, the same time is a different time, namely a different age of himself, which he or she shares only with his peers. So this is the concept he means, and maybe it's easier to look at some pictures, like when the Gen X was young in the 1980s or early 90s. They, of course, were affected by quite different notable events than, by contrast, the Gen Z. Maybe you recognize some of the notable events there. And all those events form like a kind of shared experience that has implications for new evolving values, for maybe new coping strategies to deal with new challenges. And of course, it, for example, changes the way we live relationships, whereas maybe the baby boomers said, well, we are reacting against our parents and have to protest. Today, for kids, parents are maybe rather serve as a mentor or even a best friend, which is addressed in ads or communication in general. Yeah, and in the last 20 years, the future outlook of younger generation has mainly been dominated by continuous improvement. More internationality, more connectivity, more opportunities, but this changes now somehow. We realize that since 2020, the view has clouded over. Various crises have piled up into kind of monster waves. Younger ones are responding with coping optimism, still even better than the older ones, we realize, but the view of the future is changing. We carried out a 5-country study for Allianz Foundation the year before last year, and we examined how young people look to the future. And they see themselves in a kind of waiting room for the future. The question is that really transformation? Are we in it, or does it start tomorrow? Where are we at? And what are we going to expect? In a kind of 10-year projection, young people expect a less equal future, higher costs for living, and growing social inequality. That was very crucial. And that has implications for the priorities they set. The top priority for young people now is, at least in Europe, security and affordability of life with regard to social and public safety and affordable costs to make a living. And of course, a living planet and social justice. And even, the living planet is still very important, despite the fact that many at the moment say, okay, young people, climate is not that much relevant, but that is not true at all. But the affordability of life and security is at the first place at the moment. And of course, the conditions changed with regard to work as well, as we see here, not only in the pictures, but there are new ways of career orientation and fast-moving employment biographies. You do not have to stay at the same employer for your whole life. Patchwork careers are welcome and getting normal for young people and should be normal for employers as well, of course. And employer and employee diversification is very crucial. The visibility of employers in everyday life has changed. You're not coming across the building of the big companies when you drive through cities, and many young people do not even know what kind of job opportunities and training exist. And of course, industries themselves are changing. The transformation creates new needs and competencies young people think over. Like for generation, it was maybe very nice to be in the automotive industry, but they are now asking themselves, is it still good for the future? How resilient is a job maybe in the automotive industry or wherever? So transformation and future changes are positive, but also linked to uncertainty. And this is all resulting in a kind of plan B mentality, as one represent that just puts it here. I'm actually reluctant to deal with the topic of finding a job because, to be honest, I still don't know what exactly I want to do. You're just afraid of starting something and realizing in the end that it wasn't for me at all. Yeah, and in a baseline study, we also found out that only 8% think it's very easy to decide on a profession. 29 think, yes, it's okay, but 61 find it difficult or very, very difficult. And the more highly educated, the more difficult it is to make a decision. And women are even more unsure about what suits them than men. Yeah, and to cope with confusion, they often concentrate on just these three questions. What do I want? What are my competencies? And where does this all fit into? And we all know, as Dana and Sabine mentioned, this typical stereotypes that Gen Z wants to work less, put more emphasis on work-life balance, team spirit, and health, and this is all very maybe exhausting for employers. But I found an interesting insight when I did another study in the field of insurance, because this could be one part of explanation as well. Young people expect to work significantly longer than their parents. I found this very interesting. 3/4 would like to retire between 60 and 69, but 27 expect to work until at least 70. And they say, really, this is an argument. They assume that they will have to stay fit much longer and spend more time at work overall during their life. And in their views, in order to maintain this, an optimization of working conditions is needed. But what are the future skills they think are important from their point of view? Many soft skills. This is always the fact that we see soft skills dominating. There were about more than 100 competences we collected from qualitative interviews and then clustered them in representative surveys. And of course, we saw the 4 C's, which are quite known, I think: communication, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity. But we found 2 more, and these 2 were thought of as, well, here I'm not that good, but it will be more important. You see it here. We put it as coolness because we need other C's as well, of course. And coolness here means keeping a cool head in stressful situations, being able to manage your time correctly. And for charisma is like, the ability to sell one's own ideas to others and to be able to insist on a stage to present your things and your ideas. So this is all in general, but we have to ask ourselves, is everyone in Gen Z really so Gen Z? These were all the common ground, but the concept of generations is, of course, helpful, but and the Generation Z might exist, yes, but it is not a target group. what do I mean by this? It's not a socio-cultural homogeneous group, of course. You cannot create an offer for the Gen Z or the younger ones. And this is true for any other generation. This becomes suddenly clear when you look maybe at socio-demographic twins, even older ones. I brought two guys, both born 1948, both grown up in UK, both married, having children, both quite wealthy. Well, as a marketeer, you would say, well, many common features, and I can address them in the same way. But as you see, they do live in different worlds, and you can find those socio-demographic twins in every generation. For the boomers, for the generation Y, like Müller and Kaulitz, for example, and also for the Gen Zs as well. And of course, there are not only Aussies and Charleses in the world, but also Lenas and Leas. And they choose different cultural spots, for example, our voyage versus swing dancing in Berlin or wherever. They choose different cars and put a different weight on values like freedom, status, or aesthetics. Yeah, and as a helpful approach to understand people, it might be easy to cluster them into groups of like-minded people. That is, people who share a lot of values and an approach to life. And the different mindsets we group empirically along two axes. One is the vertical is a social status, like education, income, etc. And the horizontal line, these are the values from traditional to patchwork, multi-optional, reorganization, modern and post-modern values. And while Lena is navigating adaptively, Lea, for example, belongs to a more progressive segment of society. And for her is important is flow and change, for example. And both have, of course, different requirements when it comes to housing, mobility, and, of course, the job preferences. The Gen Z milieus are overrepresented in these red bubbles. Of course, they are, in general, more modern and post-modern, and you see there are very different ones. For example, the rather materialistic, status-oriented performers, or the intellectuals who put a focus on ethics, self-realization, climate aspects, etc. And so you see that there are very different values, but they form into groups of like-minded people. And I think it's best to just get into some of these mindsets. I'd like to introduce some of them, just three. Yeah, this is the cosmopolitan avant-garde. Maybe you know some of them. They are ambitious, creative bohemians, as you might put it, who like to cross boundaries, create something new, and what is most important, they like to stand out. I brought a room here. This is a younger a young woman, 17 years old, and they look different, the rooms, when you get to some older bohemians, but they have a lot of things in common. The cosmopolitans love to experiment. They're not just following trends, they're setting new trends, and sometimes they do this kind of collage. We ask every live world to express what is important to them, how they would like to put it. Connectivity and style is very important. This is a segment that is very, very much, of course, into social media, but as nowadays nearly everyone pursues a career as a YouTuber, they set the counter trends more. Yeah. So here you find a lot of analog trends, taste for vintage, a fable for vinyl, for slow travel, for example. And this is also true for photography. It's like one of the most favorite brands is Leica here, for example. And what appeals to them with regard to jobs is to inspire people and make a difference. They hate linear thinking. And I like this example in the middle. I can translate it for you. It's something like, what are the arguments against craftsmanships? My academic parents, so they feel like it has to be something that relates to me. And even a job like a teacher is not presented like, okay, educate children, but move something, change something. And this is the way of communication. I put it in campaigns because it's so easy to show, but of course it is a way of communication through all different channels. And to see a difference, we go to the adaptive navigators. This is the middle of society, the young, modern mainstream. They wish to arrive at the center of society, and they wish to arrive at a balance between security, fun, family, and success. And the main goal here, this is a typical room, looks a little bit more tidy maybe. And the main thing is here to be modern, not a trendsetter, but they are very, very interested in trends. And what they really love is planning. They share a fascination for to-do lists, expert guidance, career fairs, and they like to orient and have a perspective. And the other part is family cohesion and spending time together. This collage looks very different, I think, from the former one. And yeah, it's important to them to spend time with their families and friends, to do healthy activities and do shopping, of course, as well. And for jobs here is always important to have a family-career balancing. They choose jobs with regard to the expected balancing between family and career. What is their main motive? Here are campaigns working for the adaptive navigators from different industries. They like to get ahead in order to arrive. That's the main difference to the first segment. A secure job is of great importance. Yes, they are not so Gen Z as the stereotypes might think, and this is still a very big group, and it's still important for them to have this job security, to not lose the grip on the ground, have a kind of normal job, accepted job, socially accepted job, and they rather look for classic jobs, high-quality brands, for example, they know maybe from their childhood. And the third one, sensation-oriented. That sounds quite nice. And they, loved entertainment in all fields of activities, be it concerts, computer games, etc. They are more in the lower center of society with less income most of the time, and they enjoy life in the here and now. They often work in crafts, care, education, and also in restaurants and hotels as well, or they wish for at least. And they are often short of money. This is not because they earn so little, but even if they earn well, they are happy to spend the money immediately. Status symbols are very important here. Expensive brands, shopping, good looks, body tuning, this is all very important for the communication. And of course, the campaigns I brought count into this field. The appealing messages here are: you do not need an academic education to be successful in life. Basic jobs are the future. And of course, humor, attractiveness, team spirit, this is all very important to them. But how to reach young people, all those different ones? Where and how do they get the relevant information? Okay, I brought a list. We presented a lot of possibilities. We don't go through all of them. You see it from websites to career fairs, etc. But what do you think are the most relevant sources? Any idea? It's everything that has to do with first-hand experiences, conversations with people who are working in this field, discussions with others who have done the same training, and of course, internships. You can summarize all this with the word immersion or immersive activities. This is the most relevant thing that leaves a real footprint. And I brought an example that we did in an EU project. I found this quite interesting. It was on optimization of reaching potential applicants for vocational education. And we developed a self-guidance for career-seeking refugees that came to Europe. And this is a kind of Tinder for job seekers. It's still in the development, but the pilot is ready now, and you can enter what are you interested in, what is the kind of field you like to work in, what are your competencies, and then you see a list of potential jobs and job descriptions, the companies near you that could offer aspects, so companies can put their offers on, and you get the contacts at the end, and of course the people present for example, videos as first-hand experiences. What were their experience then when, for example, email started in Kam, Germany? Okay, well, this is hard. From Afghanistan to East Southern Germany at a hostel reservation, and he talks about his experiences. And this was very attractive to young people we talked to. So this is still a little bit in the development, but the basis is ready now. And to come a conclusion, so that we have maybe a little more time to discuss, or maybe you like to know about other mindsets as well, I try to put it in 4 approaches that might be helpful to address and also, of course, retain young people. And the first is appreciation and vision. Okay, I put it very Nirvana-like, but it was rather a coincidence when I found this Come As You Are campaign from the 25 Hours Hotel. Maybe this is a no-brainer. But I think it's important to know that young people are very, very sensitive to a kind of common ground, a vision. And this is maybe due to the experience of crisis, etc. And what I also found very interesting was that they often told us, okay, diversity. What is diversity? Older people just say diversity is great. They put a rainbow flag on their desk and say, okay, diversity. But for us, as young people in very international work environments, I like to tell you diversity is hard work in everyday life. It's a lot about negotiations, etc. And I have to get the feeling from my employer that he can or she can deal with it and has an idea of how to live diversity in real life. And the first, of course, is a broad invitation, come as you are. But then, how do they deal with diversity, and what is their common vision to go for? The second is, okay, the word we had already, resilience, of course, and by resilience as a factor we realized in all those studies, it's job security with perspective into the future, that is robust competencies and adequate salary. And the salary is even more important. The Gen Y was rather more like, okay, everything that's nice, ethical, etc. But the Gen Z puts more weight on an adequate salary, as I told, because of the more difficult affordability of life. And this is a new campaign from the Craftsmanship Association that just started last week. I didn't bring the clip, but maybe you would check this out because it's very nice and this is kind of resilient. Wir können alles, was kommt. We can do everything what's coming next. We are prepared for whatever that comes. And this is a very important and central message, of course. And then we have next, future readiness, but also with a individual perspective, like what is my progress here? What is my perspective? We did a study on attractiveness of jobs in care and education. And one of our main recommendations was offer more arguments that you learn basic skills here that you can use in other professions as well. And of course, the client said, well, thank you so much, but we don't want to train talents so that they go somewhere else. But it's still very important, and I agree it is risky, but it's a real need to have skills that are also useful if I have to change the job. And here's about, okay, you can work at a restaurant, but you also have the chance to create your own restaurant if you like to. And the last one is listening and understanding. And this is just, the deep dive into the different life worlds. So our main aspect is, and what we do all the time is, of course, to be responsive to specific needs in your own scene. So think about how broad or how narrow is the group I'm targeting at, I like to work with, and maybe you found some of your talents in these mindsets I presented, but maybe not. Maybe they are somewhere else. And try to explore what needs they have and what are the subtle differences to others which you can cling to. And this is my last, and this is also a kind of claim at our institute. This is important because you only can move people if you understand what moves them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Silke, for your deep dive and your big overview. Also, it gives a lot of orientation to see the three groups you described. And I have written a lot of new things here. And one thing, for me, it was very interesting to hear they are sitting in a sort of waiting room. So they are flexible, how you describe it. They do today, they do that. They have always the plan B method in the head. So they are flexible. What does it mean for leaders and for companies to let them in, that they can get out of the waiting room? What's to do?
I perceive it as a very a positive openness, but it has to be filled, and they expect employers to fill the gap a little bit, because they say, well, I'm flexible, but is too flexible a little bit. I'm open, but I like to have the trajectories, the prospects, and they're searching for prospects, not like, okay, when you're with us, you can do the following things,
yes.
But what is your vision for your company, industry to go for in the next years?
So that means also the leader is more a coach, because you had also the point they want to discuss, they want to get information, so that means that leaders has to change in their role?
Yeah, it differs a little bit from the mindset. Some need the real planning, like the adaptive navigators. They like to have a kind of guidance and expert, and they're happy if someone shows to them that there's a plan. And of course, like the intellectuals or the cosmopolitans are more like challenge. I like to have disrupting elements in my job life, etc. And employers tell us, okay, these are the most exhaustive ones. It's hard to communicate and to perform with them. But I always tell them it is a real chance to integrate new things. And they are very integrative people. Yeah.
Thank you. We wanted to open it for you, for everybody. Yeah. So please click on Slido, and there we can do Q&A. So I think there are some questions, and
here?
We are ready to answer your questions.
Oh, I have to go here.
Yes. How come that people talk so negative? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. Good question. I test this normally when I go to maybe also traditional companies, and I show those rooms and have more of the typical Gen Z photos. They say like, okay, if I see this living room, I already hear the sabbatical and 4 days week. And it's so enormous how strong these stereotypes are. And not everywhere, but I think it's a media thing as well. So much is written, and I think it's important to get out of this Gen Z stereotypes, although they exist, but to get to know the people in real life and to see how different they are, of course, in fact, and to explain like, okay, do you think in your generation everyone is the same? Did you go on the street on demonstrations in the 60s and only a few did or whatever? Yeah.
It's a very interesting question because is it perhaps also a kind of envious? Because our generation wants also the same thing like the young people, but they really want it now. Is there perhaps...
Yeah, they give a push.
Yeah.
They give a push. And of course, it's a kind of, you have to select the things that are an opportunity. Of course, when we started in our jobs, we also thought, okay, why is that this way and that way? But we just didn't dare to change things, and they are more open. And I think it's a chance and a challenge, and they are very integrating. And often this is not seen, that they look across generations much more. Yeah.
So we have
even more.
What do they need in the recruiting process?
Yeah, also quite different from the mindset. As I said, the first source for information is somehow different, but they, of course, check, are my values and career requirements fulfilled here? That is, the materialistic ones, the status-oriented. Of course, they like to have the classic assessment center to know, okay, I just get it, and the others maybe not, or whatever. This competitive thing still exists. But in general, for the recruiting process, I think it's a communication on an eye level, like not this is the person who likes to have this great job, but to be open for ideas or their expectations. And some things just are a kind of no-brainer, but I think to implement this in your everyday life is still hard. Yeah.
It seems that we have some recruiters here, because the next question also is about this subject. Where are the platforms where young people search?
Yeah, what I find interesting, of course, they use the classic online job forms, but the main the way to the companies that like to apply for is often about from personal contacts. It is via social media, but because someone told them, okay, I work here, it's more this influencing thing. Mm-hmm. I work here and it's this great job and whatever. So if you have good work influencers, it's definitely a benefit. It comes from a personal point of view. They do not like these anonymous platforms, but of course it's the digital way. But the traditional ones still look at this. What is the classic company here? What is next door? Where can I stay for all time? So it's
So there are new questions about the tourism industry. Why they want to go in the industry and what do they accept? Expect. Expect and accept.
Expect and accept. Okay, of course, there are also very, very different kinds of jobs. Like, I think this is, I think this is a real Gen Z stereotype that's true, that they are, that they like to be in contact with very different people, to get to know other views, and they can deal with ambiguity even better, I think. And this is a chance for tourism jobs, I hope, because it's about inspiring people and getting in touch with very different kinds of thinking. And the young people feel that it's important, even in this, especially in these times of crisis and blocks, like, okay, we cannot communicate, or they're this group versus this group, and they like to mix it more. And tourism is certainly a good field for that.
So we have time for the last question. Were there young people from the Gen with you on the divisions, on different groups? Yeah.
Were the young people from the on the divisions? On the divisions?
So it's about difference. The young people before and the Gen Z.
I do not understand quite properly. Oops, sorry, help me. With you on the divisions into the... okay. Now I know. How do they come into that groups? Huh? It's about that. Yeah.
And I think how the groups differ. So why you put them in this group and in the other group.
Okay.
So that's my understanding of the
that's right. Of course, I couldn't explain the whole modeling. We've been doing this since more than 40 years, and we collect data also from marked media studies. We do value research, etc. And then we use, of course, algorithms to see which groups are closer together and far from each other. Also, with regard to consumer preferences, etc., and the whole way of life. And of course, we talk about the young people. We talk to how does it fit, or how would you describe your group, and how do you? This is a kind of exploration technique, of course. Could you describe what kind of mindset or group you are and how you differ from others? We do this as well. But the model itself is, of course, generated with huge data sets. And so it's a data integration model. But we do a lot of ethnographic research. So the heart of our research is at home with people or around with people. But we need the data to model it and address.
But thank you very much also for the pictures, because the pictures give really a good idea how they live and how they want to live. So thank you very much. We will do a short break, 5 minutes, and then we go on. And thank you very much, Silke.
Thank you so much.